for our main topic, I wanted to get into a little bit of a conversation today about using AI as a tool. And this kind of comes out of a report. I don't know if report, it was an email notification I got, and it generated some conversation on Substack specifically. But it's been going on on a lot of different platforms where they're trying to figure out how to keep AI from just overtaking these platforms where people like Substack specifically has video, audio, mostly writers. And I saw this on medium.com when I was working with them. And now that I'm on Substack, it's starting to come to Substack as well. And Substack seems like they're trying to have a level approach to it. But both Medium and Substack have this position where they don't want, understandably, they don't want their site to become all AI generated content. And the fact of the matter is, AI generated content is getting so good, especially in the writing space, where it's AI writing is not only indistinguishable from regular writing, but better. It's just better all the way around. And using AI as a tool is creating such a conflict with people, and particularly in creative spaces. And specifically, just as an example, the writing space is where I'm seeing it, but it's crept into, these songs that I've created for the Uncredible album, these are music, right? So the music industry is like, a guy like me who can come up with some pretty compelling lyrics would never be able to have a music career outside of being a writer, because there would have to be somebody to play the music and sing the songs. And so there's just like the barrier to entry, it's just so hard to overcome. And you look at video, and video is getting very, very good as well. Image creation is super good, in my opinion. I will say image creation is still, like, video and image. When you see an AI image or an AI generated video, there's still enough flaws in it to where you can tell, like, if you put two images or two videos side by side, you go, okay, that one is AI generated for whatever reason. There's something that'll stand out. I'm not so sure that's true with writing. And I remember when I first bumped into this conversation, it was on medium.com. It's one of the reasons I left medium.com, along with the fact that Medium didn't have. So the primary reason I left Medium was because I wanted to record my own voiceover, my own audio for my articles, and Medium didn't allow that feature. And what I would have had to have done is I would have had to record it, put it on another site, and then incorporate it into, like embed it into the Medium site. And it just didn't work. It didn't flow very well. I came to Substack, and Substack has, the platform itself is open to video, audio, writing. It's just a bigger platform in terms of what it allows. And Medium started cracking down on AI quite a bit. And I remember the first time an article I wrote got rejected because, now I should give some backstory. So on medium.com, there's this weird thing where if you're just an author who writes, you get paid. I never got paid from them, so you got paid by views or reads. I don't know how the calculation worked. I was just in it for writing. It wasn't really in it for making money in that way. But it had that potential, so I just was doing it. And then there's another level to trying to get money from Medium, where you become a publication, and then you edit other people's articles and put them on your publication, and that's kind of the best way to get more money. And so you get these people who were running what were called publications, but really it was just a couple of people who were editing. Well, what happened was I submitted an article to a publication on Medium, and it got rejected for AI use. And it was funny because I remember it so distinctly, because I was responding to an article that I had read that said, basically, I think the article is no longer on Medium, which is funny because I linked it and everything. It said, I think the title was something like "Why I Don't Use AI and You Shouldn't Either." So I wrote a counter argument why I use AI and you should too. And in that article, I was kind of making the case for using artificial intelligence in your writing, but not to actually write the articles. And this is where AI is creating this strange dilemma in the content creation world, where essentially people who just have ideas and can write a half decent prompt can create something that somebody who studied years of writing and fiction authors and things like that would have taken decades before to write. Now AI can just crank, like, you could say, like, write me a fiction story, 200 pages or a million words or whatever you want on this subject, and here's an outline: chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, chapter 4, chapter 5. And AI will crank that thing out for you. And it might even help you go through and structure it, and you'd have an entire book written in like a day. Like, where an author in the past would have to sit there and write for months and then edit and then all that. And there's this sort of disparity for the people who've put in the work in the past, where they're looking at it and going, well, that's not fair. Well, it's not fair, but technology is advancing. And so it's raised this question: what amount of artificial intelligence is acceptable in this creation process? And specifically with writing, I will tell you, AI is one of the main reasons I got back into any of this stuff, because one of my least favorite things to do was coming up with like thumbnails, like compelling pictures that would draw people in. And when I used to write in podcasts before, I would have to spend hours on these royalty-free sites trying to like find a good background image that fit the topic I was talking about, and then I'd have to throw it into an image editor and type up the title, get the right font, adjust the shadowing, just all this stuff. And it was like, none of that has anything to do with writing. Like, I had this compelling article that I wrote, and now I have to spend like 2 or 3 hours coming up with a header image. And it just, same with podcasting, right? Like, so when I podcasted before, I'd do a whole podcast episode, which I love doing, this aspect of it, recording it, cranking out some notes, doing the talking part. I can do all that. And then when it was done, I'd want to publish it, because that's one thing about me is, like, I did this when I used to preach too. Like, I like to create the content and share it when it's on my mind. Once I'm done, I move on. I like to get my stuff out there as quickly as possible. And with podcasting back then, you'd recording the episode was like such an infinitesimal part of the project, because then you would have to go through and edit the audio. I didn't even do video before. I just did audio. So you'd have to edit the audio, make sure it was cleaned up. Then you would have to come up with a compelling title. Then you would have to come up with some sort of a header image or thumbnail image, snip that out, and, same thing, title, shadowing, publish it. Back then you had to get your RSS feed typed up. It was, it was crazy. Like, the amount of effort outside of the actual podcasting or outside the actual writing was like hours of work. And it was like the return on investment just wasn't there. And what was fun, like what was enjoyable for me, the creator, was the actual creation process, like coming up with notes and compelling arguments and things to talk about. And the process of filming, the editing and all that stuff was just tedious. AI has pretty much eliminated those tasks. Like, if you look at my my clips or any of these podcasts that I put out, the thumbnail was created by AI. I'll throw a couple images in there, give it a few ideas, it cranks it out, I drop it in YouTube, we're good to go. Same with the Substack articles. I'll write the article, I submit the whole article to ChatGPT, and I say, clean it up. A lot of times I have to go back through and fix it because it'll go too far and take my voice out of it. So there's a little bit of that. But then I say, make an image based on that. And if I don't like it, then I'll tweak it. But all of that flow, that process, is made so much easier with ChatGPT. But I also understand, like a platform like Substack, where the whole idea is to build a platform for creators. And if people are just saying, hey, write me 100 articles, I want to post 2 a day, I want them to be on these subjects, draw from sources on the internet, and I want them to be roughly 500 to 800 words long, and, crank them out. It'll do it. It'll spit it out. And then all you would have to technically do is, as the creator, is read them and adjust them accordingly each time. So you could definitely like crank out fully AI generated content. And obviously there's a point at which that becomes, for the platform, what the creators don't want is to have to compete with AI, which is unfortunate because they're going to have to anyway. But then it creates, so like there's one end of the spectrum where you have the potential of people just saying like, probably the worst case scenario is if I went into ChatGPT and said, hey, this week I want you to look up what's trending on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Give me the 5 most trending things. Boom, it cranks it out. Give me 2 articles for each of those topics that I can publish, 2 on Monday, 2 on Tuesday, 2 on Wednesday, so that I'll have 10 articles. And then it cranks it out, and then you just publish those articles straight from. That would be full on. All the writing is done by AI. I think obviously we all would agree that that's a bit much. Like, I'm not sure that we want that. Although, I will say this, it would probably be more accurate than most of what you get online right now. I think if you did that, by the way, the AI aspect of it would be evident. I think you'd see it. However, then there's the other side of the spectrum where you get people who are kind of like old heads who are like, it's not a real, you didn't write it if you didn't come up with every word and you didn't, it's at a point now where I talked about this a few weeks ago, actually, in my artificial intelligence podcast that I did. But it's at a point now where some people are intentionally misspelling words so that it doesn't look like they used AI. And I think that's where we're getting to an absurd level of technological advancement where I think what we have to do is look at artificial intelligence as what it is. It's a tool. And so I personally don't see a problem with me sitting down and writing an article and then saying, I don't like the editing process. I never was that great at grammar and punctuation. I'm better than most probably, given the fact that I have a master's degree. And I acquired that well before AI existed. But there is a certain tediousness to, is that a word? I don't know. Run it through AI. There's a certain tediousness to, like, you write a whole article, you get that creative aspect out, and then you have to reread it all and look for punctuation and does it sound the way I want it to sound. You can just put it through ChatGPT and have it correct it. And so I think that's fine. I think your ideas are still there. You do have to watch though, because it will, like if you're trying to write a controversial article where you critique somebody, AI will try to take the edge off of it, and you got to tell it, hey, leave the edge on this. I use ChatGPT. I'm actually thinking about switching to a different one. I think it's called Venice. I don't know. I just came across it the other day. But a lot of restrictions on ChatGPT, and I have never used a different one, so I'm thinking about shifting. I'm going to start using it and see how it goes. But I don't see any problem with that. And then, like what I did with Suno, the creating the entire album, I'm not sure where that falls in this creative aspect, because I wrote the lyrics to those songs, and I even used ChatGPT to help with those lyrics because I wrote them out, but I don't know how it's going to fit with the music. So I had ChatGPT help me, like if I had a line that was too long or the syllables didn't work quite right, or if something was missing that maybe I could have emphasized more. I let ChatGPT work back and forth with me, and then I put those into Suno, and Suno did everything else. All I did was generate. So like, I would say the most AI generated content I'm involved with is that music generation. And listen, if you are a musician, a singer, even a writer of music, that's a problem for you, because I've noticed recently that a lot of the music I listen to on Spotify is AI generated, and it's better. Like, to me as a novice, I'm not sitting there going, oh, that guitar doesn't sound right, like, or whatever. Like, and I remember one of my songs, if you pay attention closely, there's one point where I don't know why the AI generator did this, but there's one point in one of my songs where the male voice, literally, like in the middle of a word that it's singing, it switches to a female. It goes from male to female, and you're just like, unnecessary, wildly unnecessary. But it doesn't sound bad. But if somebody who's listening to it from a technical eye, they'd probably be like, yeah, okay, so That's probably one of those things that I wouldn't notice, but other people who are good with music and vocals and stuff would go, like, that's obviously AI. So it does raise this question, though. Where's the line with artificial intelligence, and how much can you use it? Like, I look at how I did it with the music, and it just feels too easy. Like, I wrote it and it did everything else, and it feels like, and even some of the writing it helped with, so it feels like I used it too much. But then the product, I'm like, the product's inspirational. It does come from like, for me personally, the album that I created came from a place of trying to inspire and reach a community that generally doesn't get emphasis, and probably never will get emphasis in the music world. It's probably not that marketable. And so in that respect, I think it opens up the door, or breaks down a barrier to entry for average uncredible people. And so I love it for that reason, because, like, if you have, like, let's say you are a very creative person, you're very imaginative, but you're not very technical, right? What's wrong with voice to text speeching a story that you've come up with in your head, that you've always wanted to write a book, but you're terrible with spelling, you don't type very well? What would be wrong with you vocalizing your story and then having ChatGPT edit the story, and then you published it as a book or an ebook or something, and it inspired people, and they got invested in the story, and you made a lot of money off of that? What's wrong with that? I'll tell you what's mostly wrong with it is that big corporations are going, hey, something that we used to have a stranglehold on, we're losing that stranglehold on it. And so, like, I look at it as an advantage to average uncredible people to be able to get their voice out. And then I compare it to the printing press, because back in the day, to get your works of writing out was very difficult. Like, it was a hard thing to do. And then when the printing press came along, you were able to mass produce writing and spread it throughout the whole world. And, in order to get a copy of something, you would have to hand write it all out, and now you don't have to do that. And so all of a sudden, that aspect of, like, somebody who had thought about writing their thoughts down and getting their thoughts out to the world would have looked at the world as something almost impossible to tackle. Like, how would I get my thoughts on the King of England? We'll use like news and written news media as an example. Like, let's say I have thoughts on the King of England in, I don't know, the 1400s. How would I express that to the people, right? There was such a huge barrier to entry, and you wouldn't be able to do it, and so you probably would just never write it. But now, like, when the printing press came along, I could write it once and then get it out there. All of a sudden, it opens the door to you being able to do that. And obviously, the internet, in now AI, is opening doors to people who have maybe limited ability in certain areas, but they do have the technical ability or the thought processes in another area, that the ability to get it out there was not there for them, but now with artificial intelligence, it is there for them. I'm not sure that's a terrible thing. I think I am a big fan of that, and that's one of the reasons I started this podcast and started writing again, was because the technology has moved, like, for the video and like I talked about, the thumbnail images and stuff. It's one of the things that said, hey, if it's that easy to do that and I don't have to spend time on that, and I can just focus on the podcasting or the article writing, I'll do that. And then just on a whim, because of how far AI has come, I started toying around with that Suno music generator, and now I'm going to be putting an album on Spotify, which is just like something that's completely impossible to me 5 years ago, right? Just not even within the scope of anything I could do. I personally would have had to search through song after song after song to find something that would kind of get close to the idea of what I'm trying to put out there. And now I can just make it, like, pretty quickly, like, get my thoughts on paper and see that published in no time. I think that's a good thing. So, like, generally my feeling on AI is positive. I put in my notes, I think AI is no different than any previous technological advancement. It changes how we express our creativity, and it will always have its detractors. And the detractors are typically people who were profiting off the old way. Who put a lot of time and energy and effort into the old way. I remember when my article got rejected for being AI, and I was like, I put a lot of work into that, and I didn't use AI. Like, what are you talking about? And so, it's like there was a part of me, and like the old head side of me, that was like I know how to write, but so does AI, and it's like we're gonna lose that technical capability, but it'll be replaced with how people massage the artificial intelligence and its output to get better quality things in general. So I saw on X the other day, I saw like somebody said something like, if AI can do X, Y, and Z, what do you bring to the marketplace? And I was like, well, there's a difference, I think, between somebody who just puts one prompt in, cranks out something that's low quality, and somebody who refines it with the artificial intelligence and says, okay, let's adjust this. So I think AI is going to do the larger amount of work, and then humans are going to continually be doing those tweaks. And I think quality will be seen in the people who spend more time inserting human elements into it and taking out what are, at this point, just general elements. So, I said I also put there are real dangers when AI is adjusting content, so it all basically sounds the same. The more you lean on it, the less it's you, and the more it represents the collective. And I think that's the major danger. In that rhymes, major danger. I think that's the major danger, though, is the less individual human interaction you have with the AI product you create, the more it just sounds like a collection of what's on the internet. And I've seen AI do this, ChatGPT. I'll put an article in there, and then it'll, like something where I got real confrontational about something, or I took a really hard stance on something. It's like, oh, I wouldn't say that. I would take a middle road. Sure you would, but this is my article, not yours. And then you have to tell it, like, hey, put that back, change that. Another thing I've noticed when I've used it is I tend to write longer paragraphs, and AI loves to turn that into like choppy sentences for Substack. And sometimes I leave it, sometimes I don't. Listen, I've published a book. I've written tons of research papers. So for me, longer form writing, just like longer form podcasting, works better for me. So yeah, that's our main topic, looking at the world through an uncredible lens. And look, use the artificial intelligence, use AI, play around with it. It may allow average people to get their thoughts out there. And I think that's better for society as a whole. The more input we have, the better. However, it will water down and degrade the value of those things. So like, if I can just go to artificial intelligence and say, hey, write me a novel on this, and then I like think about the world we're going to live in soon, where instead of subscribing to like Netflix to watch a show, you can tell AI to create a show for you that you will enjoy. I mean, we're close to that. Like books, audiobooks, music, just making stuff that I want to hear, and then it creates it. And then that danger, and I'll end with this, that danger is that everyone creates their own echo chamber and never gets out of it. So that's a problem for sure.
No quit. Building their wall. While they talk about us. All they talk about us. Educated. Experienced. Still not credible. So we embraced it. Now we're uncredible.